Kyle, give me your best shot.
I'm sorry, that's your question today?
Roast me right now.
Roast you? I can't roast you, Emily. What the heck is this?
Go for it. Hit me. Whatever you got.
I got nothing.
I'm sure you got something.
I'm not a roaster. I gotta be in the mood to roast, you know?
Do you want to roast Seth? Would that be easier?
That would be so much easier. Oh my God.
Too bad. Roast me.
Come on. Worst episode ever, man. Emily's so dumb.
How dumb is she?
Emily's so dumb that this one time she said she would do something and then forgot to do it. Huh?
That's so true. You got me.
So true.
That's bullseye. Right on target.
Yeah. I'm a regular Don Rickles.
You're regular Don Knotts.
Right. I wish.
Start the episode, Kyle.
Welcome to Butter No Parsnips. Every week on Butter No Parsnips, your hosts Emily Moyers and Kyle Imperator take you on an adventure through the weird, wacky, wonderful, and sometimes even wicked world of one wayside word. Strange characters, delightful bits, and general joyousness abound. Join them as they test each other's etymological expertise.
Hey everybody, welcome to Butter No Parsnips. I'm Kyle Imperator.
And I'm Emily Moyers, freshly roasted.
Freshly roasted, if you
Fire
heard
roasted.
the
spit fired.
Rim shot, you know, and you know that she was roasted.
Hey, we are amped up going into this episode. Kyle, I got a banger word.
I was going to say excited, but now I'm really nervous. Like, you've really set me off on the wrong foot here. So
yeah, my word is just a roast of Kyle.
Yeah, I know
like
that's down the pipe.
Kyle, your word is borak.
No.
B-O-R-A-K. Borak.
My wife.
Wow, I've been working on this word for a week straight. That never popped into my brain at all.
That never occurred to you? What does that say about me, huh? Oh, love a good Sacha Baron Cohen. Not a bad Sacha Baron Cohen.
No, only a good one. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about borak.
Borak? Isn't that the stuff that you make slime from?
No, but we might talk about that.
We're going to talk about slime?
No.
Oh, this episode just gets worse and worse. Borak, is this a noun? It has to be.
It is. Can be a verb, but not commonly.
It can be a verb?
Yeah, don't worry about that, though.
To borak? Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm stunned. In the worst possible ways. Is it countable? Is there a borak or are there...
No. You would just say borak.
So, like, I walk into a room and I see borak on the table.
No.
I wouldn't see borak on the table.
You wouldn't see it. It's a
concept.
Thing. Yeah.
The concept of borak. This is crazy. Gaga doo-doo nonsense. Cuckoo bananas. All right, I'm going to take a guess, and then you're going to give me a hint. And my guess is going to be that borak is the concept of mean humor.
Ooh.
Mean-natured humor.
You're very close.
Yeah.
You're very... What did you say?
I mean-natured humor.
Yeah, nope. Do you want a hint?
Yeah, hint.
My hint is playful.
Okay. Oh, boy. Oh, I don't know how that helps.
But your last guess was very close.
Is it just like crowd work? Is it just like I'm further, aren't I? Okay.
So, Kyle, what you guessed a second ago was what mean-natured humor, and then the hint I gave you was playful.
Oh, is borak good-natured humor?
You got it, buddy.
That's crazy.
Borak means good-natured teasing or ridicule.
Oh,
but like lighthearted
banter. Yeah,
you got it.
Now I feel like I didn't do enough good-natured ribbing at the top of the episode.
I opened the door for you, but now it's over. You can never make fun of me again.
It's true. It's true.
That was the only time.
Door's closed. Well, I'd love to hear you do some to me. So tell me more about borak.
Let me tell you some more about borak, Kyle. So Borak, just before anything else, Borak actually shows up in a bunch of different languages as words and more often as names, completely unrelated to this definition. We're going to touch on those at the end of the episode. But the specific Borak that's used in English is Australian and New Zealander slang.
Okay. I never would have gone there, but sure.
We're going to the Antipodes today, my favorite place to go. And so it's been used to mean like good-natured teasing in Australian as early as the mid-1800s. And it is still in use, but I think generally it's something that like older people say. It's a dated thing to say, but it is still around.
I need to know where this comes from.
I'm getting to it. I'm working back in time. So also from around the mid-1800s, Borak was used to mean nonsense or idle chatter. And that is derived from an Australian pidgin language in which Borak meant nothing or a more general negation, like not, or in no way, or by no means. And Borak ultimately comes from an Australian Aboriginal language called Wadawurrung.
Oh, I've never heard of this language.
Yeah, it is Wadawurrung. To an American eye, it looks like Wadawurrung, but it's Wadawurrung.
Is this amongst the languages in Australia? Is this one of the more common ones besides English?
Yeah, so I mean, let's acknowledge the elephant in the room. Kyle, you and I are both Americans, and I'm going to assume that you know about as much about the Aboriginal Australian peoples as I did at the start of researching this episode, which is to say, not much.
I read Walkabout in high school, middle school. I know the Yowie is the Australian Bigfoot. That's about as much as I got.
Kyle, you knew even more than I did going into this. Your education was so much broader.
Emily's so dumb, she doesn't know what a Yowie is.
That's it. So, by rough estimate, there are around 500 Aboriginal peoples, tribes, and then smaller clans within those. So, hundreds. And over 250 indigenous languages in Australia and around 800 dialects within that. So like it's hard to tell how common, how like big Wadawurrung is because there's so many.
Sure.
A lot of words that have been borrowed into English are from the Darug language, Dharug, also sometimes called the Sydney language because that's the area where it was traditionally spoken. Kyle, name 5 Australian things right now.
Just 5 Australian things. Does the Yowie count, or can I should I do 5 brand new?
It does count, but I'm gonna quick look up the etymology of the Yowie to see if that one comes from Darug.
Oh, you want like things that are only Australian that aren't?
I want words that you think came from Australian, and I'm gonna guarantee you that most of what you're about to say came from Darug.
Okay. Didgeridoo.
Oh, I don't know about that one either. Why are you picking ones I didn't have written down,
These are the only
Kyle?
ones that I know.
Think of animals.
Okay. Kangaroo.
That's the one that's not. That one is from Kuku Yimitir, which is from further north in Australia.
Okay.
Dingo.
You didn't even give me. I only got 3.
I'm sorry. That one was like your bingo
now
free space was dingo.
I can't say dingo. I've got to do 2 others.
that one's like the free space in the middle of your 5 dingo. Your bingo. It's a dingo bingo.
Dingo, and dingo was his name. Oh, that's what they sing down there. Tell me about the. Were you going to talk about the etymology of dingo?
No, just that it comes from Darug. It's as does koala and wallaby and wombat and boomerang, all from Darug.
You didn't even want me to participate in this episode. You just wanted. It was just. You kept guessing ones I didn't have written
down.
All right.
You have to read my mind, Kyle. That's how we work.
I could have gotten there if you gave me 10 seconds. Emily's so dumb.
Kyle's so dumb. He didn't even think of boomerang.
It's all coming back to you.
Regardless, our word today, borak, comes from Wadawurrung, which hails from a region in southern Australia near the coast within what is now the state of Victoria. The Wadawurrung people are part of the larger Kulin nation, Kulin, and the Wadawurrung people resided in the area around the modern-day cities of Melbourne, Geelong, and Ballarat. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, the modern borak was borrowed from a Wadawurrung word, burag, B-U-R-A-G, which meant no or not. I couldn't find any other references to this word, but in fairness, Indigenous languages are generally not as well documented as colonial ones, so it's hard to tell.
You didn't call up all of your contacts in Australia?
No, I didn't call up all of my Wadawurrung friends. I should have. I didn't think of that.
Do you think if you asked them if they knew the etymology of Borak, they would have said Borak?
Yeah, I
meaning
think
no.
Meaning no?
Yeah.
No, they would have said burag, meaning no.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
What is better documented is the pidgin language that I mentioned earlier. Kyle, for the uninitiated, can you quickly explain what a pidgin, P-I-D-G-I-N, is?
Yeah, pidgin is a type of language that is kind of created out of necessity. When two groups of people speaking completely different languages meet, they kind of just have to find somewhere in the middle to be able, usually to do business. That's usually how it starts. Or slavery, or probably worse things than that, but those are the two that come to mind.
Yeah, so a pidgin is a sort of like cobbled together half language that forms when peoples without a common language meet. As you might guess, given that Australia has hundreds of languages, it also has a great many pidgins. But it is, I mean, you described it as like a halfway meeting in the middle, but a lot of times if it's the colonial language and an indigenous language, it's not really like a middle situation.
You telling me that colonists take advantage of people? I don't know. So history hasn't borne that out.
So that leads us to a quick but important trigger warning. Sometimes, as you said, pidgins do form out of trade and commerce between peoples, but they can also form out of imperialism, which means they can be tied up in some very heinous acts. And it's just important to note that many of the Australian English pidgins are the product of the abduction of Indigenous people as slaves and wives, in many quotes.
Oh, so many quotes. Yeah. Oh, awful.
Yeah. It's not really our focus as a word podcast, but it is very important to remember that.
It comes up so often, with regards to language.
Because language is a very ubiquitous thing, so it touches on everything that humanity touches on.
Wise words, Emily.
Thanks. Getting back to a linguistic talk, there are a few specific named Australian pidgins, but for the most part, we just use the umbrella term Australian Aboriginal English to refer to a continuum of varieties of language mixing. In Australian Aboriginal English, borak meant no or not or nothing. But because pidgins are new languages, as you said, they form out of an immediate need, the grammar of them tends to be very fluid. You'll have one word that can do a lot of different jobs.
Sure.
And it's the reason that a lot of times pidgins to a certain ear might sound like quote unquote broken English, but it's really just because they have a very flexible grammar system, which is cool.
Honestly, yeah, truly.
Yeah. It's we are just really trying to get a basic point across, and we're going to do it in very few words. And
it's kind of minimalist in that sense. It's we don't need flowery words to have conversations. I could just say, I go eat now, and
you know what I mean?
Yeah, you get it. So,
yeah. So the OED lists several quotes from the 1800s to demonstrate the word borak in context. And the usage is always similar, but not quite the same. I'll give you an example. It has a colonial text from 1845, which says, quote, "Just finishing the sentence, 'Give us this day our daily bread,' the native unmistakably fixing his eyes on his instructor said, 'Borak him get, though.'" So how do you read that, Kyle?
I don't get him. I don't get
I
bread.
read that as he gets nothing.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like he asks for his daily bread and he doesn't get squat.
So funny.
You know? But there is another text quoted from 1881 that includes an anecdote between a Brit and an Aboriginal person talking about a passing meteor. And the Brit says, I asked him what he thought it was. He answered carelessly, Borak me no.
Yeah.
I don't know. How do you read that one, Kyle?
I mean, I read it as heck if I know, but like, I don't know. Yeah. That's so funny. I mean, I love that it has a humorous background.
Yes. When you're dealing with the worst of circumstances, sometimes you got to get a little sassy.
You got to smile.
That's the only way to keep yourself sane.
It's true.
My personal favorite from a griping letter to the editor in an 1839 edition of the Port Phillip Gazette, plenty palaver, borak fight.
Are you familiar
with the plenty palaver? Palaver is a British slang word that palaver. That means just like much ado.
What? I'm thinking cadaver.
Hilarious. Palaver. It means like a big fuss.
Yeah.
So plenty palaver, borak fight. I think speaks for itself.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to translate it in my head. He's saying like a lot of to do, but no
action.
No action.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, so it can be used in a lot of different ways, all with a general meaning of like negating, saying like no or nothing or not, but it's fluid. Through the 1800s, borax usage extended beyond these indigenous languages and pidgins and into colonial Australian English and later New Zealand English as well. As I said at the top, borak has been used to mean nonsense or idle chatter. Great example from another letter to the editor in an 1855 edition of the Melbourne newspaper The Age. Quote, this nonsense with which I have been indoctrinated all my life, to the effect of trial by jury being the palladium or the protector of English rights, the regis of the British Constitution, etc., is then, after all, only borak.
Only nothing.
Only nothing. It's all come to naught.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I do as well. But from around the same time, and now we finally come back around to the definition in question here, borak also meant meaningless banter or good-natured teasing. And I have a very good quote to demonstrate that.
I'm ready.
This is from a poem by...
Is this comedic? A comedic quote?
Yes.
Can you do it in like your best Rodney Dangerfield accent, or
No, I mean it's a poem actually. So
all right,
it doesn't really feel like I should deliver it as stand up.
Do it as a comic poet. All right.
Kyle, have you ever heard of W.T. Googe?
Only from you, I think. Was it you? Me? I remember we were talking about Googe all the time.
I think you were thinking of something else.
No, we were like, can you believe this guy's name is Googe?
I mean, yes, it's crazy. He just wrote a million funny little poems and short stories. He put out a book that's like hits and jingles and singles or something like that. But he just wrote a million little tunes.
Sure.
So this one is titled Down the Darling. And sings about sailing down the Darling River in a raft built by the singer's friend McGindy, headed for the town of Menindee. So if you'll allow me to just read a little snippet. Mm-hmm. And McGindy'd been a sailor, and of course he rigged the raft. He'd been made aboard a whaler, and he understood the graft. Well, you should have heard the cheering and the borak and the jeering when we started down the Darling with McGindy.
Wow, that's like a whole pantheon of emotions there with McGindy. Yes. Cheering, borak, and jeering. So there were like some fans, some who were just like, nah, you buster.
Yeah.
And there were some who hated him.
Yes. Well, I think the implication is that his boat wasn't very good because it goes on.
Yeah.
It was awful work to steer her, for she wouldn't come to port, and whene'er a snag came near her, you can bet the raft was caught. But the laughter and the singing, it was splendid, it was ringing, when we drifted down the Darling to Menindee.
They had a good time, though.
It's a delightful poem.
With McGindy. Also, Emily, I'm really upset that you didn't rhyme port with caught.
I know. I would have had to really go for the Australian accent. Yeah, I realized that when I read it. When I was reading it earlier, I was like, they rhymed port and caught. And then I said, oh, if you're Australian, that makes sense.
That makes sense. No, it's a great little ditty. Love it. Are there recordings of it? Do you know?
No, I don't think he wrote a tune for it. He just wrote it as a poem. And then like people later have written different tunes to pair it with. I found one that somebody like put out sheet music for, but and then I
send it my way. I'll sing it out loud right now. I'll sight read it.
You sight read it? Huh. Hang on. I've probably got it pretty handy. Yeah, I do.
Okay. We can actually do this.
It's all, I guess he meant it to be like swung, but he didn't really swing it. It's just all with...
Yeah. I get it.
You know? Like dotted 8th, 16th, dotted 8th, 16th.
It was in the early 80s when a man could see some fun. In the 80s when the Brady's stood at 20 pounds a ton, and a working man's resources wouldn't run to feeding horses. That we started down the Darling with McGindy.
Yeah, that's
something like that.
That's the only like written out music that I could find.
It sounds like another song. Da-da-da. I guess just really any song written prior to 1850, you know?
Yeah, it's like
March.
a little folk jaunt.
It's adorable. Love it.
But getting back to this definition of friendly teasing, I feel like English has a lot of good words and phrases in that vein. Can you think of any, Kyle?
Oh, I mean,
you said one earlier. You said ribbing, which I like.
Oh yeah, sure, ribbing.
I like ribbing because it conjures the image of like nudging a guy in the ribs.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like other like good ones for just poking fun at people. I'm poking fun.
Poking fun. Kyle, if you come across the word borak out in the wild, it will almost definitely be as part of the phrase poke borak at.
No way.
Yep.
Poke borak
used in exactly the same way that we say poke fun at.
Wow. Does poke fun come before or after?
Poke fun comes before.
Okay. So it's like in imitating that phrase.
Yeah. Green's Dictionary of Slang, from our good friend Jonathan Green, quotes in an article from the Ballarat Star in 1857. The article is discussing like a very unproductive legal conference that just happened. And the journalist writes, quote, "More was done by the early agitators than we were doing. Earl Grey and the Downing Street gentlemen did not poke borak at them."
That sounds like a regular old political discourse there.
It does. And, fun fact, the Earl Grey that he mentioned is the Earl Grey that the tea is named after.
No.
Yes, I confirmed it.
No.
Yes. He lived around that time, the mid-1800s, and the tea was named after him from that era.
Is he Australian?
No, but he's English.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't ever poke borat at Earl Grey tea. That stuff is good. You know?
Said poke borat.
I don't ever. My wife, my favorite tea, Earl Grey.
You might also see the phrase poke the borak at, or even just poke the borak.
Oh, like poke the bear.
Well, I think used in the way the Brits say, like take the mick, or take, if you pardon the language, take the piss.
Piss is bad language now. We can't say piss on this podcast.
I don't know. I feel like it is.
Can I say total aside? But I figure might as well bring it up now. I was thinking earlier today, I was using the restroom. All right, we all use the restroom, and I was like,
"This is great."
I was like, "Why is it called pee? Is it because is it onomatopoeic for pee?" And I was like, "It doesn't really sound like pee. It sounds like piss." Piss. I had this realization. So there you go, everyone. I did it for you.
Thanks, bud.
Mm-hmm. So you can poke the borak at me over my urination.
Yes, we can, and we will. And also, Kyle, if you're looking at more recent quotes, you are equally, if not more likely, to see not borak with a K, but borax with an X.
Like the chemical.
Like the laundry
borax?
soap.
It's laundry soap. That's what it is.
I mean, we use it as laundry soap, but yeah.
What do they use it for other things? Slime.
No, I just mean like it exists. It wasn't like made. It was found.
Wait, what?
Sodium
it was found
borate.
and we named it borax?
So actually, the substance, sodium borate or variations of that, have been called borax or words similar to that from like the 4th century. People have known about this for a long time. That was new information for me as well.
I'm sorry. You're telling me that borax has existed longer than Betty White?
So much longer. How old do you think Betty White was?
Betty White was born in the 10th century. She's been doing films since those Christian mystery plays.
Yeah, so it's existed for a very long time, but I think its commercial use, like the iconic 20 Mule Team Borax, made it like more of a household word from the late 1800s through the 1900s. Green's dictionary cites appearances of poking borax or poking the borax as early as 1902. And like the closer you get to the current day, the more common borax becomes instead of borak. The OED speculates that this was like an arbitrary assimilation with borax. Arbitrary meaning these two things had nothing to do with each other. Assimilation meaning they sounded close enough that people merged them in their brains.
I mean, that sounds really, truly possible.
Yes, but truly crazy.
Truly crazy. But also, poking the borax sounds like a terrible sequel to the Lorax.
Yeah. Now that they've worked everything out with the Lorax, now they all have to team up and fight the borax.
Which is the anti-Lorax.
Which is so much worse. So much worse.
The borax is like, I speak for the, I don't know, Beelzebubs.
I was trying to think of a joke like that. All I could think in my brain was, I am the borax, I speak for the bees.
Oh, it's like a B-movie crossover. It's just really leaning into the meme.
Yeah. The borax is Patrick Warburton's character, but like furry.
Trying to just being
so that it looks
cuckolded by a bee. Yeah, that's what that movie's about, everyone.
That truly is. So, yeah, it's a crazy thing. But the fact is, nowadays, this is a delightful but dated and old-timey phrase. And as New Zealand-born Australian author Ruth Park wrote in her 1949 novel Poor Man's Orange, quote, "Don't go poking borax at the dead."
It's true. I wouldn't deign to do such a thing.
You wouldn't dream.
I wouldn't dream of it.
Kyle, that's what I got on borak, which means it's time to ask before I'm going to get out ahead of you and ask, can you use this word in a sentence?
Can I use borak in a sentence? Yeah, of course I can use borak in a sentence. Are you kidding
me? I know you can.
So you said it's most often used in like poke borak at.
Poke borak at or poke the borak. You can just say borak to mean nonsense.
And poke borak at as a phrase, it means like to like,
rib.
To rib. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Listen, every now and then, it's fun to poke borak at Sacha Baron Cohen's hit film and character, Borat, the Borat.
It is.
But at the end of the day, we have to remember how great of an impact it had on the country of Kazakhstan.
We have to remember that.
We have to remember.
We cannot
Tourism
deny that fact.
Went through the roof.
Is that true?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Kyle, good sentence. You used it right. Bang on. Love it.
I love it. Emily, I love this word, borak. Such a good word. It's a funny sounding word with a very important background. And listen, we are funny people, so let us poke the borak.
We're always
we want.
We're always poking borak, you and I.
Yeah, always.
Always poking
and
the borax.
He hates it.
And boy, does he hate it.
Boy, does he hate it.
Kyle, I have a game if you want it.
Let's play a game.
Kyle, the game I have is called A Whole Nother Ball of Borax.
A whole nother ball? Does borax come in ball form?
No. You ever hear there's a phrase, it's a whole nother ball of wax.
Oh, that's good.
I was trying. It's
rough.
I
liked it.
Kyle, as I said at the top, the borak that we talked about today is not the only borak. So before we close out, I'm going to ask you some questions related to some other uses of the word borak.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm all for it.
Ready?
Yeah, hit me.
Borak is a paste or powder used by the seafaring Samabaja people of the Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia, used to protect the skin from what?
Oh, boy. Don't
overthink it.
Oh, the sun.
You got it. It's the sunscreen. Yeah.
Nice. Borak. Yeah. Okay.
Borak, it has a kind of a yellowy color because it has turmeric in it.
That's pretty cool.
All right. So you're 1 for 1. Next one. The Borak necropolis is a national monument in Bosnia and Herzegovina containing 212 visible steci, which are megalithic what?
It's definitely tombstones, I assume.
It is tombstones.
I'm sorry. It's called a necropolis?
The Borak necropolis, which is a word that people use for a graveyard like it's a normal word, but it's not the most terrifying word anyone's ever heard in their life.
I mean, it doesn't it literally mean like city of the dead? That's it's
necropolis.
It's like a terrible, fun way to refer to a graveyard. Yikes.
Yeah. And a stečak is a thing, I think, in the area of like Bosnia Herzegovina specifically, that's like a big fancy tombstone. And the Borak necropolis has 212 of them at least.
Oh, it's not even like attractive. It's just in the middle of the woods somewhere.
It looks haunted as heck.
It's so scary.
Because it's a necropolis.
Oh, God. All right.
Yeah.
Places to stay away from in Bosnia and Herzegovina.
All right. Last one, Kyle. The character El Borak was written by the same pulp fiction author responsible for what famous Arnold Schwarzenegger character?
The Terminator?
No.
Mr. Freeze?
No.
The mailman he played in that Christmas movie?
You're going very niche. This is not very niche. This is like the other thing that Arnold is famous for.
Give me a hint.
It's a D&D class.
Oh, Conan the Barbarian.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Conan the Barbarian.
What's the relation here?
Is written by the same guy. So Conan the Barbarian was created by author Robert E. Howard, was a pulp author in the 30s. And that man also wrote a character called El Borak, who was a Texas gunslinger who had traveled the world and settled in Afghanistan and was known as El Borak.
When do we get a film adaptation of that? El Borak?
El Borak.
I want to see El Borak.
Should I think like also be played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, but like now?
But now, and doing his best Texas accent.
Yes, for sure. He's lived in America for a while. I'm sure he can handle it.
I think he can do it. If he's not going to run for president and save us, the least he could do is play El Borak.
Don't say that out loud. Kyle, you're 2.5 for 3. Well done.
Emily, thank you so much. Well done to you. What an awesome episode. I will not poke the borak at you over the information that you have given to us today.
Thank you.
And I hope that our audience members will not poke the borak at you as well. And I hope that they remember that they can watch us visually on YouTube at Butter No Parsnips, and that they can find Butter No Parsnips on other social media, on Facebook and Instagram at Butter No Parsnips Podcast, and on TikTok at Butter No Parsnips. And if they liked today's episode, please consider giving us a 5-star rating or review wherever they hurt us.
And if you really like today's episode, consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/butternoparsnips. Donating just $5 or more gets you exclusive access to Buttered Parsnips, our After Hours podcast.
Ooh, After Hours. Thanks so much to all of you. You help us make what we make.
And with that, I've been Emily Moyers.
And I've been Kyle Imperator, and this has been Butter No Parsnips. Borak No Parsnips.
Butter Borak Parsnips.
Yeah. Yeah. Butter Borak Parsnips.
Butter No Parsnips is produced by Seth Glicksman, Kyle Imperator, and myself, Emily Moyers. The main and accompanying themes were composed by Kyle Imperator.